Welcome to the Hire Yourself podcast. My name is Pete Gilfil, and I'm here with my business partner, Nat Truitt. We're all about helping people become better business people or just become business people. Good morning, Nat.
Good morning, Pete.
Oh, man, am I pumped up today.
You are.
Yep.
Are you, did you go outside and get a cold polar plunge or what happened?
Well, speaking of that, I'm excited. I'm pumped up because next week I'm going to Florida on vacation.
Ooh, nicely done.
I can't take this cold anymore. It's just been a terrible month in terms of being cold.
Totally.
Yeah. So, did you grow up where your parents or older people always said, as you get older, you just can't tolerate the cold anymore?
I don't remember that, but I feel like for myself, even I can't tolerate the cold. Like February, March starts to become really long, right? In Chicago.
Yeah, but it just is. I grew up in Minnesota, so I'm used to cold weather, that kind of stuff. I've lived in great parts of the country, but as I get older, it just seems like I'm colder all the time. It's just I don't like the cold as much, right? So it's interesting. So I went and looked. And believe it or not, as we get older, there's different reasons why we feel colder or we can't tolerate this cold weather, right? So one of them is that we have in our body thermoregulation. So as we get older, our thermoregulation starts to decline. So bottom line is that you're just colder, right? So the second thing is why you feel colder as you get older is that our arteries, our blood vessels get thinner. And so they're a little less flexible from that standpoint. And so that is the second reason. And the third reason is that, and this is not in my case, so I can't use this one. As we get older, we get a little bit thinner from that standpoint. We get rid of some of that fat, and fat keeps you warmer, right? So I've done a nice job of building up that fat, but I don't think it's overcoming my thermoregulation decline. So that is why we feel colder when we get older.
That's interesting. I'm really curious to see how you're going to segue this into franchising, because usually there's a point to your story. I know I'm wearing a hat today, so that's my solution to trying to keep a little warmer. Very good.
So today what I thought we'd do is we'd spend some time kind of talking about different reasons why you should invest in a franchise, right? Or kind of top reasons to own a franchise business. And because this is so important as we get older and we start thinking about, okay, what are we going to do? I think a lot of this stuff is relevant, especially for 40, 50, 6-year-old executives that they're ready for the next thing. And so maybe looking at a franchise, investing in a franchise business is the right thing to do. So
let's just kind of like what you're saying about like, hey, I'm going to head to Florida next week. And it's like, you own your own business, you can make your own schedule, right?
Right. So it's kind of, you have that flexible schedule, and in many cases you get to pick where you want to live. Like when I was with Ford, we would move every 20 months and they would say, by the way, your new job is in Atlanta or your new job is in California, and you don't have any choice. So being a business owner, you get to decide where you're going to live. Maybe like that great background that you have there. I think that's California, right?
Yeah.
Is that Huntington Beach? Yeah.
Laguna Beach. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, right. So one is that you can have that lifestyle that you want wherever you want to live. That's pretty cool from a standpoint. I was thinking a little bit, and I was having a conversation with my kids the other day, and I was telling them about being a young executive and how I had a boss, and I was telling them stories about what the bosses would make me do. And they're like, a boss can't make you do that. And I said, well, when you are a young executive, you can't just say, I'm not going to do that. Right.
Right.
And I'm not talking about anything illegal, but just it's stuff that doesn't make sense. Right.
Thanks for clarifying that, Pete.
Well, no, I was using the example. So my wife and I went to Hawaii on vacation, right? When we were, our kids were young.
Yeah.
And it's one of the first vacations that we had just been able to get away without our kids. So we're on vacation. My wife goes in and takes a shower, and I pick up the phone and I make a phone call. My wife comes out of the bathroom and she says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I was on the phone with my boss." And she goes, "What are you doing? You're on vacation. You shouldn't, have to call your boss." And I said, "Well, no, my boss said I was supposed to call and check in every day on vacation." And she goes, let's be clear. This will be the last time that you will call and check in on vacation. And I didn't do that afterwards. But that's an example of when you're a business owner, you can be your own boss. You can make the decisions, and it's so empowering not to have to have a boss and make the decisions and then go execute.
Yeah, and I feel like these days with technology and franchise is all about like systems and processes and all that. So you can have your KPIs. You can I can run my whole senior care business right off my cell phone. Probably be gone for a month and nobody would even know I'm not there.
Yeah,
So
right.
I think just leveraging all the technology and the systems and all that makes it much more manageable once you have it built. I mean, you always are kind of pushing that snowball up the hill, but once you get it built, you can manage it, have a lot of freedom and flexibility.
Well, and let's talk about that technology. So one of the advantages to investing in a franchise is they put a lot of money into infrastructure, technology. Yep. And I think a little bit about the pandemic where some of these franchises had to pivot to help their franchise owners get through this black swan, this COVID event, right? So whether it was Exponential using their production studio where they're doing filming of workouts, right? So people could do workouts online opposed to at a studio, or even something like a blind company, a window treatment company, where they used apps to do for lack of better terms, estimates, right? So
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some real advantages to technology, and I think there's a power of compounding when you're able to take that money and invest it to build out the whole infrastructure in terms of technology.
Yeah, when you're talking about a unit level franchise owner, just think, if you can save 1 or 2 headcounts, you could actually, that you could easily save, depending on how much the payroll is for those people, but I mean, usually it's like probably 40 to 60 to 75,000. So you could potentially be putting an extra 100 to 150,000 in your pocket, or be able to reinvest it into the business versus having to pay that all in payroll.
Yeah.
I always would prefer to pay a little bit more on software and technology because it never calls in sick. You don't have workman's comp, you don't have unemployment, and all that. So I love that about franchising.
Yeah, I think so much as you invest in technology, it's really expensive. And so
you don't want to figure that out on your own. That's for sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a kind of a deep hole to go into. One of the other things I think about franchises is that it's about a system, right? Somebody has spent the money, the time, the energy to figure out a business model so that you don't have to do that. Right. So you don't have to spend the time and money, because if you go and you're starting a business from, you come up with an idea, bottom line is you've got to spend a lot of money to seed that idea and make it into a business. And why not have a franchisor do that?
Yeah. I always kind of tell people, with a franchise, you're paying for a proven product or service, and you're also paying for a proven sales and marketing strategy. And then really it comes down to implementation, right? It's like, are you willing to implement the proven plan? That's where the rubber meets the road.
Well, and you've started businesses from scratch, so firsthand. You started something from scratch from an idea to investing in a franchise, and you clearly saw the difference, right? In terms of the ability to get going a little bit faster, from standpoint not making as many mistakes.
Like a service franchise, you could be up and running in probably 60 to 90 days. If you're starting from scratch, it's probably going to take more like 12 to 18 months. I mean, there's a million things you have to think about, like everything from the logo to the font that you're using, to the website, to the technology. Like you have to figure out. It's like eating an elephant when you start your own business from scratch. It's a lot of bites.
Well, and as we talk about them figuring out, then they put together the systems. Right. Yep. So they basically say, do this. It's like putting together an IKEA piece of furniture, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3. And I think there's some real benefit to that from a standpoint of execution.
That's actually interesting. I just was thinking about that IKEA or Legos. Like we should ask our people when we're talking to them, hey, do you enjoy Legos? Like you like to put things together? Are you the kind of guy that sorts the bricks into the colors and then you put it all together? Or
Yeah.
I wonder if that would be a good franchise test.
I don't know, right? Because I have to admit, sometimes I skip steps or don't completely read the whole step, and sometimes that's not a good outcome. So I think the idea is, I always kind of preach, if you invest in a franchise, follow that system, right? You can always make the system better, but at a minimum, you follow the system. I think there's also, as we talk about a franchise, the benefit of working in a corporation is that you have an organization to lean on. When we look at investing in a franchise, you also have the franchisor that supports you, which is awesome, right? They help you launch the business and they help then support you on a going basis. Sometimes I call it like success coaching. They're helping you guide through it.
Mm-hmm.
You've certainly seen that.
Yeah, you have like a whole network of franchise owners you can plug into. You have the parent company you can plug into. A lot of times you things we don't even think about, but you have like typically preferred vendors. Those guys are of course going to want to help you be successful. So there's a whole, it's a rich environment.
Yeah. When I was at Ford, they would do, dealers would get in groups from all over the country and meet on a regular basis to discuss ideas and work through problems and all that kind of stuff. And I know you did the same thing when you were a franchisee. I mean, I think that's the real power of that whole network of other franchisees is when you're struggling with something or you need ideas, you can lean on them.
Yeah. It's you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself concept, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that in today's world where we have lots of speed bumps, that's not all bad. One of the things I also think about is brand recognition, right?
Yeah.
Because it takes a while. You've started businesses from scratch. I mean, you're really kind of starting from ground zero. If you invest in a franchise, you can kind of buy into that brand recognition.
And I do think that's a big part of what you get with a franchise, whether you're, when you think about like Meineke as an example, right? They have with the college bowl games, they like sponsor those. You see like, or the NASCAR's got like the Jimmy John's logo on there and everything. So the over time you're kind of building that brand together, both the parent company and the local units. And it's just like that rising tide raises all ships, right? So if you can kind of like hook your hitch to a good brand, it's like it'll
a lot of times when people invest in franchises, you're investing early in the growth pattern, right?
Yep.
Early in the development of the brand. But you look forward to, like, if you were one of the first people that invested in Jimmy John's, right, or Orange Theory, right? So you don't have immediate, but it advances quickly from a standpoint, right, opposed to if you were trying to do it on your own, strength in terms of numbers. What about, as we look at a franchise, there are also benefits in terms of, we'll say purchasing power. Yeah. So if, for example, I'm a paint franchise, I can leverage the paint franchise to get a discount on paint. Or if I'm a fitness franchise concept equipment, like boxing gloves or something like that. So I think there's some real benefits in the purchasing power or the resources you can get from a franchisor.
Yeah. Yeah. You have the vetted vendors and everything. And one interesting thing we're starting to see a little bit of is vertical integration, where some of the franchisors are actually kind of going upstream and they're buying like a supplier or they're buying a marketing company to kind of help and support their franchise owners and to make sure that they're never like run out of, how all you hear these days is like, there's no chips or whatever for the computers or I don't know what, but some of these brands are getting smart and they're like, okay, we're going to buy, the whole company and then we're going to own it. Yeah. And that way we can keep our franchise owners in product. So.
Right. Well, and if you own, for example, a digital marketing company that can support your franchisees, well, then that digital marketing company isn't trying to make it a profit off the franchisees. So you know that they're getting a fair price. And number two is that you control the data. So it's actually brilliant. Yep. I think a little bit about one franchise concept that they use pickups, right? It's a service-based business. And they went out and bought 150 pickups to ensure that their franchisees would have those vehicles. So.
That's the benefit of the franchise system or what have you, right? You have the buying power, and there's people at corporate that are like looking ahead, whether it's 3, 6, 9, 12, 18 months down the road. And, of course, they want their franchise owners to be successful and grow their business. So they're going to help support that.
Yeah, absolutely. When you got again, that purchasing power, but you also, they are buying in bulk so that they have the opportunity to do that.
Were they Ford trucks, by the way, Pete?
I hope so. They better have been. They better have been. I don't know. I know Dodge does a lot of fleet stuff too, but I think they were F-Series. So I think they made the right choice for sure.
I like the I see a lot of those Ford Transit vans too being kind of bought up, and they put those like wraps, the vinyl wrap with the
Yep.
advertising on the side. Those are cool
Yeah,
too.
it's funny you say that. My buddy is running the commercial group for Ford, and now they're rolling out the EV, the electric vehicles in the commercial vehicles, like the large transit vans.
Yeah.
They're now, that's pretty cool,
Yeah, for sure.
right?
People like to, feel like they're reducing the carbon footprint of, whatever, probably mostly deliveries at this point. So
I guess you would hope it eventually would reduce your cost too. So
yeah.
what about, in terms of a franchise, there are some benefits if you're looking to fund the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a franchise, maybe it's easier to get an SBA loan because it's on the registry. They know the business. It's not, hey, Pete's Plumbing, I'm just starting out. They actually know the business. And so I think there's an opportunity to maybe get a little better financing or the ability to get financing. But also I think some franchisors will also do like in-house financing or funding, or they'll have a relationship with a third party institution.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of taking the path of least resistance. Like if you're going through the process and you have like a reputable franchisor and they are, they have a lot of times they'll recommend or they'll kind of refer you to 2 or 3 lenders. But if those lenders are familiar with the brand, and it's just you have a good credit score, basically they know that you get the business plan is the same for all franchise owners, and you're off to the races. So that's that's a win-win right there.
Yeah, absolutely. As you think about win-wins, one of the things that I spent a lot of time looking to buy an existing business after I left the corporate world, I looked at franchises, I looked at existing businesses. And one of the things that at least occurred to me is that franchises generally may be easier to sell. What I mean by that is that if I'm buying a business from somebody and it's a franchise, I know that I'm going to get a good transition. Not only the seller, hopefully I'm going to negotiate a good transition there, but the day that owner walks out, that's selling it to me, I'm kind of screwed if I don't have a franchise. Now, if I got a franchise, now I can go through all their training, I get all their support and stuff like that. So I would think, or my belief is there's more value with a franchise on the resale market.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I think my story of like how I had built 3 or 4 companies and sold them. And so then back in like 2010, I had this genius idea, like I'm going to be a business broker. And so, over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, I looked under the hood of a lot of businesses, both mom and pop and franchises. And it was interesting because the mom and pops were always kind of like their P&L was just up for grabs, their balance sheet. A lot of times it was just a glorified job. The owner was kind of the artisan. Yeah. And I'm like, you review all that stuff and you're like, I don't like, maybe you could give the business away because there's no systems, there's no processes. You're basically employee. Your books are not clean. And then it was just refreshing because when you'd work with a franchisor, it's like, typically they have a standardized chart of accounts.
Yep.
And they're paying royalties, right? So they're not going to, I don't know why they would lie on their top line revenue. Yeah. Because they'd have to pay 5 or 6% royalty on it, right? Yeah. So it was a refreshing difference. And you had the systems and processes in place. So then you can be a little bit more, typically a franchise that's been around for 10 years is going to be pretty semi-absentee at that point. But
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think there's just some huge advantages. And certainly as the seller, you're going to get a little bit of premium for that, one would hope, because it's a franchise and you built it up.
Yeah.
So I think, as we talk today, there are so many different reasons to essentially look to invest in a franchise business. And we've just highlighted some of them. There's a whole bunch more. We probably don't have time because I got to get ready to go to Florida. So
whatever. I can't talk to you. Actually, one thing we didn't talk about is just the fact of kind of thinking about retirement and all that, right? So it's like another good reason to do it is kind of build an ATM machine to help you have money coming in your retirement, so that you can afford to go travel more places. And, you're not like spending your retirement money on your trips. Even if you had a nice little business that paid for all your trips, you could take a super nice trip once a quarter when you're in your 60s and 70s and 80s. That wouldn't be the worst thing.
Yeah, so you're not digging into your retirement assets, right?
No.
So I like the idea that if you have something where you can kind of cover some of your expenses, your core expenses, that those travel fund things, that's just good. And most of the executives I work with, they don't want to completely quit working, right? They'll say, I got a little gas in my tank. I don't need the pressure of the corporate world. I just want to have a little business, throws off some income for me,
Exactly.
It's a great way to transition.
Purpose and meaning and something to do too. So
is that a hint that I should, as I go down to Florida, look for a retirement home? Is that what you're suggesting here? I just want to make sure I caught that.
No, you should look for a condo to buy, and then maybe I can rent it a couple weeks out of the year.
A true friend you are. Well, thanks. I appreciate all your input today. So
all right.
have a great day. Thanks.
Right,
bye.
Thanks for listening to the Hire Yourself podcast. For more resources, check out our website at hireyourself.com. And remember to subscribe to this podcast to receive each episode. Please leave us a rating, and we'd love to hear your feedback or suggestions for topics.